I will get super vulnerable and raw because I think it's so relatable. Is like we don't know that we're suffering, I think, sometimes until we start to take steps away from that suffering. And our society, growing up as a teen, a female teen in a society that paints this idyllic picture of who we're supposed to be is hard. And humans aren't perfect, and we're like measured up to be perfect. And I know that narrative is changing a lot. But that in the 90s and when I was in my formative years, that wasn't the case, at least, in suburban Chicago area.
Yeah. Welcome to the Kooler Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kuehlhorn, and I'm excited to have you join me as I interview community members and business leaders from the communities in which I live, work, and serve through my business Kooler Garage Doors. We're going to bring you highlights on characters in our communities. Why? Because community matters, and I want to know more about who is behind our business and leadership in order to understand and support the community fabric that our relationships make up. And collectively, we can build stronger communities that support our lifestyles, our youth, and our health.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kooler Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kuehlhorn. Today, I have the privilege of sitting down with my friend, Lindsey Hartnett. She is the owner of Sex Plants Rock and Roll, a vessel for holistic health resources. And as a practitioner, I'd say, Lindsey, thank you so much for joining.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. Such an honor.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be able to connect in this way. I know we have history more or less from like Western and when you were spending time in Gunnison, and it's just been fun. It's always fun to track people and be a part of people's lives at a certain point in time and then just see how we evolve, right? And it's so fun.
It's so fun.
Where are you beaming in from?
Right now I'm in the Banana Belt over here in Salida, Colorado.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Salida is one of my favorite towns. I remember doing a research, like it was a school project when I was at Western, and I picked one of the iconic buildings downtown. And I think that's what I love about Salida. It just has an amazing downtown, old school buildings. But I put this plan together for a breakfast spot, and so that could be my retirement venture. But I love Salida. It's such a cool culture and zone.
Yeah, we love it here. It's been a really great spot.
Yeah. I know we're going to talk about a lot of things health-wise, but to begin, Lindsey, where did you grow up?
Well, I am an Illinoisan. I come from the northwest suburbs of Illinois.
Right on.
Yeah.
Tell me more. What was that like? Is it urban, rural?
It was pretty ticky-tacky.
Yeah.
It was really suburban. I had a pretty, honestly, the movie Mean Girls, that was the kind of high school
really?
I went to, for better and worse. It was, I grew up in a great community that was, a lot of privilege to be able to do, basically anything. And also pretty close to the city. I was, and you know me, this might not come as a surprise to you, but I was a rebel at that time and really exploring outside of the box of suburbia. And so I spent a lot of time going down to the city and, taking the train in, and I got to see a lot of live music growing up. So that kind of became the, pre-cell phone era, total freedom. Our high school experience was heading down and, checking out music almost every weekend.
Wow, that's fun. That's pretty cool. Which side of the Mean Girls script were you on?
Man, I really tried to stay in the middle.
Yeah.
I was, real outcasty. So kind of, I guess, I haven't seen the movie in a minute, but her friends, when she first moves, that just kind of didn't really fit in anywhere. I tried not to ruffle feathers. I made my own clothes. I was a flamboyant hippie at that time. So really trying to rebel.
Yes, got you. What's the short story of Illinoisian to Coloradan?
College, Western State.
Yep.
I didn't really know where I wanted to go. I knew I wanted to be in the Rocky Mountains, and I had spent some time visiting Colorado on ski vacations. And I found out there was a college 30 minutes from a ski hill. So I jumped on that immediately.
Right on. What'd you study at Western?
I studied art. Ceramics was my emphasis, with Al Caniff, who I think is still teaching
I think so.
at Western.
That name's familiar. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Very cool. And what'd you do after graduating?
Oh my gosh, what didn't I do? Dirtbag to the extreme. So I kind of, moved in to Colorado, not really knowing much about mountain life, really not knowing anything, and just felt like I discovered myself and the planet for the first time. And I, got really into mountain adventures all across the board. So when I figured out that I could live in a place and play like I was on vacation every day, I did whatever it took to stay. So I worked at the secondhand store. I worked at the health food store. That's where I met Annie, your wife, and she linked me up with the Reamer family, and I was the nanny, and then I became a sales and marketing person. And there were some other things, bartender, yoga teacher, really across the board.
Yeah. No, it's the mountain town community. Do whatever it takes. Juggle what needs to be juggled.
Yeah. I like to joke. I didn't build a resume until I was 35 years old, until I moved to Salida.
Yeah. And how long have you been in Salida now?
We moved here right before the pandemic in 2009.
Yeah. Right on. And how's that been treating you?
It's so good. I love it over here. I don't shovel more than maybe once or twice a season, and I still ski 6 days a week.
That's awesome.
And the community is fantastic. I do miss the Gunnison community and the whole Gunnison Valley, but it's an hour away, so I get a good fix frequently.
Yeah. Hey everybody, this is Luke from Kooler Garage Doors. Just want to take a quick second to talk about our sponsor, Sommer Garage Door Openers. We believe Sommers are the best in the business when it comes to garage door openers. We always recommend them for residential installs because of the many features they have, such as Wi-Fi connectivity and safety features like a fixed chain that runs along a secure rail for a quiet and safe operation. Click the link to find out more about Sommer Garage Door Openers.
I'm curious, have you always been an entrepreneur?
Yes. But I didn't know that.
I resonate with that.
When I was in junior high, I ran a summer camp out of my parents' house. I really liked the Babysitters Club growing up. And so I had like a few friends, and we just, had all the neighborhood kids over one day a week and like planned crafts and snacks. And so it started.
Yeah, I get that. So tell me about Sex Plants Rock and Roll. What is it? What's the aim?
Oh, the aim is to help people get a vehicle back to loving themselves and connecting to the planet, and really seeing the value in being close with nature, and through the offering of skincare. I didn't know what I heard the term self-compassion one day, and this was during the pandemic, and I didn't even know what that meant. And I realized I had a long ways to go. And I've always loved, being a health person by passion. On a dirtbag budget, I kind of discovered how to make my own products. And so I had all that stuff available to me. And I really spent the time during like the deepest part of the pandemic, when we went, all we had was time. And I spent a lot of that time taking care of myself. And so now I'm creating these minimal impact, supernatural, organic, wildcrafted, homegrown skincare products as my offerings of love from our sweet planet to help people have that same love for themselves.
Yeah. So the vulnerable question that arises, when you're talking about self-care, self-appreciation, was there a time in your life where you got separate from that in order to see the importance of it?
Man, I think that, and this could tie back to the Mean Girls thing, is I think that really began in my teen years. And I will get super vulnerable and raw because I think it's so relatable. As like, we don't know that we're suffering, I think, sometimes until we start to take steps away from that suffering. And our society, growing up as a teen, a female teen in a society that paints this idyllic picture of who we're supposed to be is hard, and humans aren't perfect, and we're like measured up to be perfect. And I know that narrative is changing a lot, but that in the 90s and when I was in my formative years, that wasn't the case, at least in suburban Chicago area.
Yeah.
So I think it began there, and then as time moves on, you just kind of like hold these truths that you've been taught and learned, and that kind of snowballs. And it's this process of unlocking that, I think, where you start to rediscover really what's at your core.
Yeah. I totally get that. And I would agree. I think there's a part of the human journey where, in the formative years, you have a child. I have a kid, a couple of them, and it's wild to watch how they learn and how society teaches, and then what I can inject, and then also my own evolution. Like, I'm a different version of Matt today than when my kids were really tiny and maybe even really spongy. And I feel like there's a theory where, as a human, we come into this world completely open, and then, society and experiences and emotions and all this stuff, and we start putting layers on. And then there's a time, and maybe it's a mean girl type of experience, or maybe it's a crash into the rock kind of experience, rock bottom, and we start delayering. Where do you think you're at in the part of the journey right now?
Man, I still teach yoga, and I was just saying this yesterday. And it's like an onion,
yeah.
Right? We're just, and the onion's always growing. So I think and from the core, right? So I think there's infinite layers. And I feel like I peeled off one that still had dirt on it yesterday, So in some, it's like you go through an experience and realize, okay, in some point, I'm that onion that's ready to be cut and cooked. And in some areas, I'm still way in the dirt. So I think it's all, I see this whole life experience as a spectrum, and every experience we go through, we're equipped to some level, and then also some of them are brand new.
Yeah, the journeys are incredibly beautiful when you have that perspective on it. And in the moment, sometimes they can be really painful and suffering. And your efforts these days, through skincare, and I know you're into other components that have an alignment with this. It's to me really grounded. Like, there's a lot of love of self. There's a lot of love of earth. Why is this important, and why now?
Sometimes, Matt, I do things and I don't even know why. It just feels like it has to happen. And I often, get challenged by the challenges of business, and wonder, why am I doing it? But also, I can't stop. And it feels like I'm riding this creative vehicle that was built for me. So I don't totally remember what your question was, but there seems to be this sense of urgency to connect back to our planet right now. There's like no doubt that the storms that are happening, I mean, you could look at the storms that are happening in record-breaking snowfall in Tahoe right now, and after years of record-breaking fires, like things are changing, and there is a sense of urgency for humankind to adapt to that. And I think this is one small way just to realize the potency of what this planet has to offer.
So what is this, or, whether it's products or way of thinking, what has it done for you in your life? Like what kind of shifts have occurred as you delayer the onion and open up to new knowledge?
I think the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. And there's so much to learn out there. And I've gotten to meet some amazing people that I wouldn't otherwise be put in the same room as, or a similar conversation. And I think being vulnerable and putting myself out there as an entrepreneur has been the most profound self-development from any experience that I've had. It's like the ultimate mirror, you know?
I do know. That lands pretty good. That's good. All right. So let's talk a little bit about Wholistic. And, I can relate, or I'll put it in this context. I'm not the best at taking care of my skin. Like I have my wife that lathers stuff up on me occasionally. I guess there's a twofold question here. So one, why might it matter? So maybe there's somebody listening that relates to what I just said, where it's like, yeah, maybe I'll put some hand lotion on my face or, whatever, but I'm not really paying attention to what that lotion is. Like a lot of times I'll use a shea butter or something, but it's also super easy to grab stuff off the shelf of a grocery store. And how might that be different? And what does that, potentially do for or against our skin health? And then the second fold of this, I can repeat it afterwards, but it's like, what does it matter as far as what I'm intaking, right? So if I'm eating McDonald's, but I've got this beautiful healthcare solution, maybe it's not a fit. So that's like the holistic piece, right? So I guess consolidate all of that. Why does it matter to take care of our skin? And how do we do it beyond simple topical type of products?
Okay, I'll try to distill it because that's a big question. So in-care is skincare, and our largest organ is our skin, and its purpose is to hold our insides in and protect them from the environmental toxins, and not only toxins, but anything that's happening outside, to protect our organs. So we both detox out our skin and also absorb nutrients. That's why like soaking in an Epsom salt bath can be so helpful for some muscles, and also why we get acne. That's all toxins trying to come out. And if our organic body is not properly functioning due to not only environmental toxins, accumulation of toxins in our food, but also malnutrition because of the state of our soil health on the planet, we're not getting the nutrients that we need to function properly. So our organs, and this shows up differently for everybody, our organs slowly are going to lose their function. And humans are resilient, so we can appear to be thriving really under some pretty strong circumstances. You can think of the story of the mom that lifts the car off of her child. We are so powerful. But also, if these elimination pathways aren't properly functioning because they're either overloaded or just not functioning at their strongest ability, we'll start to, detox out our skin. So thinking about what's going in. And I think a lot of people are really getting keen on this, you know, and low chemicals and lots of, you know, naturally occurring simple ingredient food intake is going to keep your skin healthy from in here, but also protecting from the outside. So we want to make sure like we're removing toxins from our body, that we're maintaining the natural oils, that we're not adding other chemicals that our immune system is going to have to figure out what they are to remove in order to, you know, maintain our health. So you go to the supermarket and read an ingredient, you know, find that hand lotion and read the ingredients on the bottle. And I never know what that stuff is. Maybe, you know, water, and it even has a funny name, and there's a couple of things you can recognize, but I think the products I'm offering, I try to keep it as close to edible as possible. You know, I make a joke, like if I'm in the backcountry and I'm stranded out there with my sunscreen stick and I run out of food, I know I'm going to make it home. I can eat that sunscreen and feel myself home. So I try to, you know, think if you can't ingest it, then it probably shouldn't go on your skin.
Yeah, I love that. And I love what you say, in care is skin care. And the fact that the skin is the largest organ, like all that stuff hits me. I think that's important. What's something practical listeners can start doing today that could help with the skincare? And when we're talking skincare, like we're talking all of body and healthcare, right? I mean, you can't not address all the other items because it is holistic. So what are some kind of practical things, or even when you started really getting aware of your journey, what are the first few things that you started incorporating in as your practices and habits?
I mean, I think I like to think about it as the first part of our day. So you wake up and ideally you had a good night's rest. And we do all of our cellular regeneration at night. So that also, and detoxification. So that means you wake up in the morning and you need to eliminate because your body's been working to repair itself. So warm lemon water first thing in the morning, you know, a nice 16 ounce, 32 ounce jar is just going to help get your digestive tract moving and get toxins leaving your body. And then fresh air, you know, and I know like a lot of people don't have access to nature the way that we do. And I'm so grateful for the place that I live, but you can always look up and nature will always be above you. So even if that means stepping outside your busy city life, looking up and, you know, just breathing fresh, clean air, you know, our lungs are not, every in-breath is an opportunity to regenerate. Every exhale is an opportunity to let go. So just kind of acknowledging those pathways are incredibly helpful. And then I think the third thing is just get familiar with the ingredients. You know, I don't even look at, when I'm buying food, I don't even look at like nutrition facts. I just go straight to the ingredient list. And if I don't recognize it, I'm either going to look it up and figure out what it is, or it's not even coming home. And that goes for what goes on our skin. And then also like other cleaning products and such that we bring into our home.
Yeah. Now the importance of just what the skin can absorb is really an awareness piece. And that alludes to cleaning products or anything that we put in our environment. Like it all matters.
Yeah.
And it can all play. Awesome. Lemon water, breathe, get connected with nature, become aware of ingredients. Super practical. On that note of extraction, so this is something that I recognized and learned that, our sleep time at night is important for so many different reasons. One of which is our body's time is to rebuild, repair, and to remove. And that also goes to like when we have our intakes, right? Because can't that cycle get disrupted? Like if I have a midnight snack that's like in the middle of when my body's like going through its removal process, right? Do I have that understanding right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I just kind of go by yogic philosophy, is that it takes about 4 hours to digest, or to get, from your stomach into the large intestine, a large meal. So 4 hours before bedtime is when you should be done eating,
Yeah.
and then giving yourself a break in the morning, like ease into that. My morning is usually lemon water and then fresh fruit, because fruit is nature's best detoxification.
Right. Yeah, there's a guy like Jesse Itzler who talks about fruit till noon, and it's pretty good practice.
That's what we do.
Pretty good practice.
Yeah, it's a great practice.
Yeah, awesome.
Fruit gets a bad rap, man. It's not fruit's fault. It's it's the order in which we're consuming.
Yeah. Copy that. Amazing. What are you excited about?
I'm excited about all the seeds that I just organized. I'm thinking about my garden, and I always try not to overdo it, but I always overdo it. But I'm very excited about that. I have like some pretty big ideas for what I want to do with my little urban space. And it's remarkable what you can do on such a small piece of land. I mean, you know that. You've done a beautiful job with your yard as well. But this year, my big goals, I'm going to say it because I've been thinking about it. I'm going to say it. I'm going to build a front yard fence so I can have herbs in the front. We have a pretty vicious town deer problem here, or, it's my problem. It's not their problem. They have their own problem. And I'm gonna learn to keep bees this year.
That's awesome. Right on.
Yeah, so excited about
very
that.
Cool. How can folks listening get in touch with you, whether they're looking for skincare products or just want to tap your knowledge and your network for whatever resource they're looking for?
Yeah, so Sex Plants Rock and Roll, I made that name because I knew it would stick. And I'm a one-woman show, so if you reach out on any platform, you find me, I'll be the one to respond.
Awesome. Is it Sex Plants Rock and Roll allstrungtogether.com as far as a website?
Yep.
Cool.
All spelled out letters.
Yeah. Well, we'll include all of that stuff in show notes. How about final thoughts? Whether it's a quote or just leave off with an insight, share.
Yeah, I think it doesn't have to make sense to anybody else to have it make sense to you. And no matter what other people are going to tell you, it's not their business, it's yours. So if you have an aspiring dream or a persistent idea that just you feel it in your cells, follow that.
I love that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lindsey, I really appreciated our connection and conversation today. Thank you so much for your time and what you bring into the world.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm very grateful. Thanks for providing this platform.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to the Kooler Lifestyle Podcast. We count on your subscriptions, your likes, your shares, and I encourage you to do that now. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe, lower right-hand button. If you're on audio, download this, share it, and we look forward to having you on the next one.